In this first section, we're going to talk about classical oration. And I want you to think of a prompt. We'll kind of develop an outline of an argumentative essay based on this classical oration. So let's say we want to write about the negative impact the cell phone has on today's society, especially given the idea that we are way too addicted to it. People are on it too much. Social media is addictive and potentially watching what you're doing. So let's apply that potential outline of an essay to classical oration. So the introduction introduces the reader to the subject under discussion. So perhaps here is where you introduce your main ideas. You introduce the idea that the cell phone has gone from something that was utilitarian to something now that we use at all times. It's constantly on us. People are addicted to it. The narration provides factual information and background material on the subject at hand, thus beginning the developmental paragraphs, or establishes why the subject is a problem that needs addressing. So maybe here is where you would cite specific examples of people who have mental health issues because of overuse of their cell phone or over-reliance on social media. Or perhaps you address a personal issue that you have with the cell phone. Let's say you have a parent who's on it too much and it doesn't really talk to you much, and the negative effects that has on you. Right, here's you provide some more context for why the issue that you're writing about is so important. The confirmation, that's your body paragraphs. And also, we should also think about the 5-paragraph format isn't necessarily relevant here. Your introduction and narration could be 2, 3, 4 paragraphs, or perhaps they could even be combined. And then your confirmation, we can think of it as your body paragraphs. The development of the proof needed to make the writer's case. So maybe here's where you provide studies, you provide statistics that show the negative effects of the cell phone on humanity today. The refutation, which addresses the counter argument. Maybe here is where you specifically address the people that would say, no, the cell phone is not a bad thing. It's a good thing that we have the internet at our fingertips. It's a good thing that we have smartphones that can do all these different things, and it's beneficial for humanity. You would want to address that and then say, well, while that might be true, here's what else you need to know. Now it says classical rhetoricians recommend placing this section at the end of the text as a way to anticipate objections to the proof given in the confirmation section. This is not a hard and fast rule. If opposing views are well known or valued by an audience, our writer will address them before presenting his or her argument. And we've talked about this with the counter argument thesis statement. Depends on how strong the counter argument is. If you know that, let's say with something like gun control, you know the counter argument is so pronounced in society, and so many people think of that argument whenever they think about this topic, that you probably want to address it right off the top. The conclusion, whether it is one paragraph or several, brings the essay to a satisfying close. The main idea here is, so what? Your conclusion should really make your reader realize why the topic that you wrote about was so important. Now, when we look at this example that hopefully you read, and if you did not read, I think it's important that you pause the video now and read it. And also look at the margins. Look at how each section that we just talked about is applied to this essay. The introduction, which again, if we scroll back up here, introduces the reader to the subject under discussion. This subject is about American schools not teaching students enough about how the government works. And again, you should scroll back up and down and compare these definitions here to this essay. We see the narration, the confirmation, which again is the meat of your essay, okay, where you make your main case or you provide all of your facts and proof. And then you see there's a lot of that. Your refutation, you acknowledge the other side. And then, of course, your conclusion, you imply why this is so important, what you just wrote about.